Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. Let's discuss the unfortunate and horrific tragedy that happened over the weekend in Buffalo, New York, where an 18-year-old white male supremacist went into a black neighborhood, went into a supermarket, shot 13 people, killing 10. And so we'll break down some of the many, many layers of this hate crime. We're going to be checking in with psychologist, author, and professor, and the director of the Urban Research Institute, Dr. Ray Winbush. And we're going to be talking to legal scholar A. Dwight Pettit in a little bit to discuss all of these layers. Also, folks, let's talk about how in Virginia, there's a community that are going at odds with one another, neighbors against neighbors, over Confederate street names. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Plus, we got trends posting doing the most. So stay with us. We got a lot to get to on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, peace, folks, and welcome to the show. Man, this is going to be a tough show for us to have because of the great tragedy that happened in Buffalo, New York over this past weekend on Saturday, where 18-year-old white male supremacist went into the black neighborhood in Buffalo to the Tops supermarket and shot and killed 10 people, injuring 3 in the process. This has been a horrific killing this weekend. And across the country, people are mourning. We here at Black Star Network, we are certainly send our prayers and our condolences out to the families that were affected, to all of the families, and to the community, to the Black community, and to the community of Buffalo for this tragedy. We wanted to have a number of discussions around this because it's just so, it's really hard. It's really hard to talk about things like this because they're still happening even in modern day America. And so today, our culture crew member, Jules P., is going to be joining us in a moment. I would like to bring on Dr. Ray Winbush, who is a scholar. He is an author. He's a professor. He serves as the director of the Institute for Urban Research at Morgan State University. But let me bring in culture crew member Jules P. Jules, good afternoon. How are you, brother? There you go, Jules. How you feeling today?
We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, it's a tough one. This is really, really a tough one. And Jules, I don't know, where you were when I heard the news, but I was just hanging with the family, and then I'm seeing all of the notifications coming across my phone from CNN and other places, and it's mind blowing, brother. It's mind blowing that this still is happening in this day and time. So, yeah, go ahead, man.
The crazy part, so when news and things usually happen, I always do a lot of research first before I I gotta read more. So it's like, all right, I'll go to I always say a lot of times I use Twitter because Twitter's probably the most up-to-date social media, and it has live streams from newscasts. But I also go on CNN, and I also look at just regular news channels via my phone. I get all the information there when I research. This was one of those situations where when I first got the notification, I didn't do any research. I just when it comes to mass shootings, mass killings in this country, there's no secondary source needed. It's all it's happening so much. It's just this is crazy. This is yet another. And we'll break it down more because I got a couple things to say, but it's that's just like one of them things is like as soon as it happened, like I didn't even have to do any secondary research. It's just like you just straight because you're like I'm starting to say like are we getting used to the violence because it's happening so much?
Yeah. I think that's the big question. Are we getting used to it? And I don't want us to get used to it. That's why I wanted to have this discussion. And I couldn't have this discussion just with you and me. I think we needed to make sure that we have the proper voices that understand the dynamics, all of the many factors and dynamics at play here. So we're going to welcome Dr. Ray Winbush, a good friend of mine, a brother who has a very vast understanding of race relations in this country. He is an author. He is a professor at Morgan State University. He's also director of the Institute for Urban Research there. Dr. Winbush, good afternoon, sir. Doc, you know, we heard about the shooting. Once again, a young white male decides to go into a public space where Black people come together and commit a heinous act, first on the outside and then on the inside of the supermarket. This 18-year-old white male supremacist, Peyton Grendon, did something that what we saw with Dylan Roof just a few years ago. And so there's so much to unpack here. Not you know, to add to your resume, Doc, people don't know this because we really didn't talk about this part, but you are actually a psychologist by trade as well. So talk to us about what we're looking at here. Talk to us about how to process what we've just been experiencing in over the past 48 to 72 hours.
Well, what we've been experiencing is in the long line of over 400 years of violence directed directly towards Black people. You know, Peyton Gendron is just the latest in a series of white men who kill Black people. There's no consequences for killing Black people in this country. When there have been, and we have history that shows that that has occurred, they don't kill us. But when there are no consequences, and when a guy named Kyle Rittenhouse got off from killing 2 people, not Black people, just a few months ago up in Wisconsin, young white boys will say what this guy Gendron did. He said, I can kill Black people and get away with it. And see, you got to unravel it at a lot of levels. For example, if this had been a Black person in a predominantly white neighborhood at a grocery store who walked in with body armor on 2 days before, as you know, case in the joint, if you please, we would think they were suspicious. We would call them, a Karen would call them or something like that. But in this day and age, Black life is cheap. And white people know this. White killers of Black people know this, that not much is going to happen to them. In fact, they can become a hero like Rittenhouse. You know, this is one of these things that we've got to ask ourselves, what do we do in situations like this? Not at the scene, but what do we do about this right now? We can't wait for the justice system. And I'm sure some of your guests will be talking about that. But Black folk have to go inside of themselves and say, what do we do about this? And that's a hard question to answer.
No, and I appreciate you bringing it up because that's been a big question that has been on my head all weekend, Doc. You know, like when my producers and I were talking about this, my producer Shannon and I were talking about this, it was like, you know, I did not want to have a conversation about how Black people can assimilate or accommodate better.
Yeah.
I wanted to have a conversation about, one, that there needs to be a greater responsibility, and it may not come from Black folks. It might have to come from other white people to say enough is enough. Like, we have to emphasize that. I don't think Black people, we've said so many times on so many different, so many different spaces and capacities that something needs to be done. I listened to one of the victims. It was an 82-year-old woman by the name of Ruth Whitfield. And Mama Ruth was shot and killed by this devil because of her simply being there. And her son said today at this press conference that Mr. Ben Crump and others were having with the family of Miss Whitfield. Her son said something needs to be done. Enough has to be enough. And it pained me, Doc, because we hear the cry of Black people in this country so loud, seeking justice, seeking relief from the burden of racism and white supremacy. And all we get are high platitudes, whether it's from the political leadership or even from the church or whatever, that things are going to be okay, that this is not the real America. No, it's like, no, that's not enough anymore. That's not enough for somebody to say, I empathize with your pain, versus somebody saying, I'm going to do something about this and making a very drastic step in doing this.
Well, like Malcolm said, history is our best teacher. Something like this occurred, not as horrific, back in the 1960s in North Carolina with a brother named Robert Williams. And I would urge all your viewers to read, if they haven't already, Negroes with Guns. They were under assault in this small town, and Robert Williams and his wife said, we're going to shoot back. We're going to take up arms and let the white community know that we have arms. All of a sudden, all the violence stopped. There was no more Klan rides at night attacking the Black community. Now, see, this is difficult for this generation to talk about, but in the 1960s and 1970s, the 70s with the Panthers, and even in the late 60s, armed self-defense was always on the table. Somehow it was taken off the table, and I believe it was right after the Panthers were wiped out in the 70s. I think now we have to start looking at people who are in our communities that don't belong there. See, if I walked in body armor into an all-white neighborhood grocery store, I'm going to be stopped. Somebody's going to stop me. We allow people in our communities. That's one thing we can do. The second thing, we cannot trust the justice system to give us justice. And I think that Black people have to accept that there's certain things that are not going to happen in this country. Read what Gendron said in his manifesto. He said that he was not crazy, so we cannot accept that this guy is mentally ill. He himself not only says he's not crazy, within the manifesto, he actually has a personality test that he recently took. I think that what we've also got to do is start talking about arming ourselves, not to go to the store, but we need to, I said today in social media, the two things that should be in every Black person's house that they need to know how to handle is a gun and a passport. Those are two things we all need to have, but many of us don't have either one of them. And I think that we've got to understand that we've got to start policing our communities ourselves. The Nation of Islam has this expression about, watch the room. I forget how it goes, but when you are in a meeting of that's the safest place beside my home that I ever feel, when I'm in a meeting with the Nation of Islam, because I know people got my back. And we've got to start having people from our community, and I would argue from the nation, that guard places where we know that we are vulnerable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to bring up this point, Doc and Jules, because Christopher Wray, who is the director of the FBI, he came out and said in a testimony last year before a Senate committee that the most daunting assessment of an increasingly toxic threat, saying that racially motivated attackers represented the most deadly and biggest chunk, quote unquote, of an estimated 2,000 open domestic terror investigations. This is the FBI director. Basically, he's saying that the greatest threat to America is not Islam. It's not the economics. The greatest threat is the white extremists, is the white supremacists. And the government knows this. The government knows this, Doc. And I'm wondering why, even though the FBI has taken note of this, how come we are still not getting the sense from this government and the impact, the psychological impact of the non-action from the government and from other agencies as we're seeking justice, like you mentioned, the Department of Justice, and feeling like we're not going to be able to get, why aren't they moving much more assertively, aggressively, do you think? And what is the impact of that? That people are crying out for justice. You have this administration that has said at the beginning, we're going to stand with you. We have a black vice president, and I'm not saying it's all on their fault, but I'm just saying in this day and time, we something has to change besides the rhetoric that we're hearing.
Well, I mean, very quickly, I think the government has given tacit approval for these white supremacists to do what they're doing. This is me. I'm going to tell you this as a psychologist because we try to know this detail. If you notice that the cop that arrested this guy, he had tattoos all up and down his arms. I think any cop that wants to be a cop has to be, I'd like to see what those tattoos were. Okay. We know that, as Christopher Wray said, and you just quoted, that police departments and the U.S. Army and Armed Services are both infiltrated with white supremacists. We know that. And these people are trained and they have weapons. And so if they're not doing anything about this, I can only conclude logically they're not here to protect us. Mm-hmm. And that goes back to my point of being that we have to engage in self-protection. I live just a few miles from a large Jewish enclave in Baltimore, and the Mossad, which is the Israeli Secret Service, they have a training academy for their young people,
right?
And they patrol in their communities. We have to do things like that. We can't take, like you said. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm gonna call his name. Mayor Brown of Buffalo, I turned him off because when he kept saying, as you say, this rhetoric about we're better than this nation, this is not who we are as a nation. We are this as a nation. That the white men committed genocide against Native American men, women, and children. They raped, pillaged, killed us, lynched us for hundreds of years. We are that nation. And for us as Black people to repeat that empty rhetoric about we're better than this, no, we aren't. This is who we are. And America is not willing to face up. And what Black people have always been, this country is the voice of telling this country it ain't what you think it is. It's worse than what you think it is. We've got to continue to tell them, but we've got to convince our people that we got to go beyond churches, politicians, elected officials, and the judiciary if we are going to get justice in this country.
Doc, I want to, I know we got a quick break. I'd like to hold you on just for a few more minutes.
Okay.
If that's okay. Because I want to make sure, I want to get your thoughts about one of the big reasons why Peyton decided to do this is because he was influenced by the ideology, the mainstream, and I'm going to say that this is not fringe, this is mainstream ideology that has been perpetuated through Tucker Carlson and others, of this idea of this replacement theory. And I want to get your take on that as we continue this discussion. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation and coverage of the Buffalo mass shooting that took place over this past weekend. 10 people were killed, 3 were injured, and unfortunately, this was a hate crime. This is considered to be a hate crime. So we're going to continue to look at this and, most importantly, dissect it so we can become empowered to figure out what the next steps will be, as Dr. Winbush has indicated. So we'll continue the conversation. Please continue to talk in the chat rooms on both YouTube and Facebook and all of our platforms, and continue to stay tuned. You're tuned into The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
It's time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
You dig?
Folks, we have been talking about the Buffalo mass shooting that took place over this past weekend in Buffalo, New York, where an 18-year-old white male supremacist walked into a supermarket in a predominantly black neighborhood in Buffalo, and with what folks are now determining to be a ghost gun, fired and killed 10 people, injuring and injured 3. He has been certainly taken into custody, and this 18-year-old by the name of Peyton Grendon has been seen, as you can see, Gendron, mispronouncing his name, but his Peyton has been taken into custody. He has written a 180-page manifesto where he talks about his views, his ideology, who he was mostly influenced by, and why he did what he did. We've been talking to Dr. Ray Winbush, who is an author, professor and one of our great scholars. He serves as the director for the Institute for Urban Research at Morgan State University, and also joined by our culture crew member for the day, Jules P. Doc, I wanted to get your take on this idea of this replacement theory that was one of the big factors for Peyton to do what he do. But this was not a theory he came up on his own. This has been something that's been very prevalent. And actually, we talked about it here on this show, Doc, where a border patrol, a high-ranking border patrol officer also subscribed to this idea that of this replacement theory. But this has always been promoted by none other than Mr. Tucker Carlson of Fox News. I want to play just a little excerpt of what Tucker Carlson says about this replacement theory and why this is such an important part of this larger story about this mass shooting. Check this out, folks.
Because this is one of about 10 stories that I know you've covered where the government shows preference to people who have shown absolute contempt for our customs, our laws, our system itself, and they're being treated better than American citizens. Now, I know that the left and all the little gatekeepers on Twitter become literally hysterical if you use the term replacement, if you suggest that the Democratic Party is trying to replace the current electorate, the voters now casting ballots, with new people, more obedient voters from the third world. But they become hysterical because that's what's happening, actually. Let's just say it, that's true. If this was happening in your house, if you were in 6th grade, for example, and without telling you, your parents adopted a bunch of new siblings and gave them brand new bikes and let them stay up later and help them with their homework and gave them twice the allowance that they gave you, you would say to your siblings, I think we're being replaced by kids that our parents love more. And it would be kind of hard to argue against you because look at the evidence. So this matters on a bunch of different levels, but on the most basic level, it's a voting rights question. In a democracy, one person equals one vote. If you change the population, you dilute the political power of the people who live there. So every time they import a new voter, I become disenfranchised as a current voter. So I don't understand why we don't understand this. I mean, everyone wants to make a racial issue out of it. Ooh, the white replacement theory. No. This is a voting rights question. I have less political power because they're importing a brand new electorate. Why should I sit back and take that? The power that I have as an American guaranteed at birth is one man, one vote, and they're diluting it. No, they're not allowed to do that. Why are we putting up with this?
As a psychologist, I'm supposed to deconstruct some of this stuff that I hear the white supremacists say. I mean, everything you just heard is a bunch of bovine feces. I'll be kind about it. The white replacement theory, I'll be honest, where I first heard about it, believe it or not, was from a black person named Chuck D of Public Enemy. When he was doing his album, they were doing their album, Fear of a Black Planet, which was dedicated to Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, who talked 30 years ago about the fear of white people of genetic annihilation, that they were going to be reduced in numbers because of the changing demographics. White people's birth rates have gone down, the death rates have gone up. Enter Tucker Carlson, who really gained a lot of traction right after the election of this last idiot that we had in the White House, Donald Trump. And so now he is the most listened to American every day in this country, because that show that he, is the number one cable news network. Millions of people listen to him, including this guy, Gendron, who killed our people in Buffalo this weekend. So white replacement theory basically said the Democrats are trying to get in all the immigrants, brown people, because they tend to vote Democratic, and that they're replacing the white people who are dying off. If you read Gendron's first, 10 sentences, he talks about white genetic annihilation. He says that he says there's only one country where the white birth rate exceeds that of the black and brown birth rate, which is Argentina. That's how far he goes. So this whole white replacement theory, it got its real impetus during the Charlottesville demonstrations a few years ago, where the young woman was killed, run over by a car. And now it's taken hold. It's like the core theory about what this is all about. It is about race. And it's the fear of a black planet that Chuck first talked about 20-something years ago, and we're seeing it acted out in what happened in Buffalo this past weekend.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because the way Tucker Carlson presents information, and folks, check this out. I want y'all to keep this in mind. He's trying to act like he's the victim. Tucker Carlson, that's his wheelhouse. I'm going to be the victim. I'm going to act like I'm a real American, quote unquote, and I'm thinking about all Americans. But it's language that is cloaked in euphemisms and dog whistles. Right. And it's ideas that have been a part of the white supremacist tenets for many, many years in this country.
Yeah, go on. No, it's back in the 60s before social media and Fox News and all this crap like this. We used to hear Klansmen say things like, if they go to school with you, they're going to marry your daughters. Right. See, that's white replacement theory light. What we're getting now is a heavy dose of it. I've been trying to find this quote for a couple years, but Dr. King said in one of his books, he said that he thought that at the basis of all fear of what he called integration was the fear of sexual intercourse between black men and white women. I mean, you see this historically is what happens, how many black men were lynched for just thinking about that. The 1921 Tulsa Massacre is an example of this. Now, the white fear that Tucker Carlson, as you say, he's the victim. White people have to defend themselves, right? Because we're going to be overrun by these people who are going to replace us. It's all, like I said, bovine feces. That's all.
Absolutely. Jules, what's your take on this as we're having this conversation, bro?
So I got a couple of points, because this goes back from the earlier part of the conversation we had earlier, when we were talking about, the idea of us mobilizing and uniting as a culture and as a race to talk about this. And it struck me because when the Asians went through what they went through just a couple months ago, Stop Asian Hate was a hashtag used majority by Caucasians, not by Asians. Right. It wasn't by the community that was affected. It was by the community that's known for these mass shootings and these mass killings across the country. Mm. So I think that is a more in-depth point that we need to discuss about, what do we need to do to mobilize? It's not about us, because we're the victim. It's taking.
We don't need. Yeah, I agree.
It stands from the leaders of this country who are Caucasian.
That's right.
Across the board, to stand up and do that. And it's like, I'm with you. I also can't sit here and just be waiting for it. Like, I just can't sit to a side and just like, all right, another one. All right, well, they'll get us one day. All right, well, no, it needs to be pressure put on them ASAP.
That's right.
Like, when I listen to Biden talk, it's just like,
you want to believe.
Nah, not even.
I'm just saying. Let's keep it real, because we got all types of folks that are tuned in today. Some of our people, Jules and Dr. Winbush, want to believe that this man can change race history, that he can change the narrative. You want to believe. And look, I don't get mad at people that have hope, because that's essentially where it comes from. The dissatisfaction comes when your hope has not been fulfilled. That's when you start to become disappointed. But we all have hope, because we see some white people that are in a much better place in understanding about our struggle versus other white people, right? So some of us, so there's a level of hope. but it's hard to keep that fire lit. And to your point, Jules, it's like, what do you expect us to do? Like, you pushing us into a corner where now the only recourse, the only action that we can take is survival. And guess what? You never, and I remember reading this in Sun Tzu, Doc, you never push people into a corner, because why? They're going to fight like hell.
That's right.
To keep and preserve their life. So they're going to fight harder than if you were out in the open. Because they're trying to get out there. They're trying to save their life. Now, here's the other part about this, Doc, and I'm glad Jules brought this up. I heard the president. I want to see if I got Keena. Can you put that quote on the board? Let's put this quote up. This is what the president. This was what was reported by Associated Press. The president said, quote, "A lone gunman armed with weapons of war and a half-filled soul shot and killed 10 innocent people in cold blood at a grocery store on Saturday afternoon." This is from President Biden. The problem that I have with this, Dr. Winbush and Jules, is that the conversation is still as if this one man, this one individual is not a part of a larger thinking or a larger community. He was not a lone gunman. You can't say he's only 18, so he only knows but so much. So you can't say he a lone gunman, but he was influenced by Tucker Carlson that talks to 20 million people a day.
Right.
You can't say he's a lone gunman when we know, when Director Ray already said that domestic terrorism from white males is the biggest chunk of terror investigations. There's a psychological impact on that, Doc, that I'm trying to, I want us to get to, because when we know when black folks do it, and I know if black folks do it, we already know that double standard. But I'm saying you can't paint this as a lone gunman. Somebody asked in the chat, one of our watchers said, Farajii, do you think the parents should be charged in this situation? Hell yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Hell yeah. He's 18 years old. Now, if he was 45 outside of his parents' home, you know what I'm saying? His parents were a part of Black Lives Matter or something, and he was just like, no, but he's 18. How do you think you learn this stuff?
That's right.
I read, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Dr. Jules, that he got the gun from his dad, or he got access to guns when he was young. The point is, he was not alone. He was cultivated. Now, look, that don't mean I'm going to start to, it's like having an abused person say, well, he was made that way. I don't give a damn, because right is right and wrong is wrong. Regardless of how he had a choice. Last year, they said that he had made a threat against his high school. Then that he would commit violence at his high school. A couple of days ago, he had a little encounter with the security guard that he ended up killing. There is a pattern here. This is not a lone gunman. This is an effect to a larger cause. And I think I think for us on the advocacy and activist side, that we force the conversation to be not from a lone gunman, a gunman.
I agree.
He was a gunman. He didn't do this by himself. Peyton Gendron is not the only young white male in America that thinks this way.
There we go.
Look, I have a colleague of mine, and he says it, and it's true. He says, white supremacy is a team sport, and all white people are on the team at some level or another, just by virtue of the fact that he wasn't killed at the scene, which a black man would have been. That shows that they were on the team. And this idea of this lone wolf theory, he himself, again, in his own manifesto, he really underlines and says over and over, I acted alone. Nobody's to blame except me. He doesn't even blame a group. And the reason why he does that is because he knows that the system of white supremacy is going to support him. He knows that there's other people out there that, as you just said, that believe what he believes and are going to act on what he's doing. They know that.
So, Doc, when we look at this from an activist point of view, from an advocate point of view, and I'm saying we know that there's a great responsibility that white America carries with this situation. First and foremost, what are the things that white Americans can do, or who can they turn to? Because we tried to reach out to a couple of what they call whiteness scholars. And these are white scholars, white professors who study white supremacy and their impact and the history of white people in this country and around the world, folks. So this is not some made up term,
right.
But we want to bring them on. But I'm tired of putting the onus of responsibility on the victims, which is i.e. us, to change the thinking or the system when we don't have no power.
That's right. That's right.
We don't have no power in this situation. We're like sheep, unfortunately.
We don't. And like Neely Fuller says, and you know who he is, he says that the only people that can end white supremacy are white people. The burden, like I said, shouldn't be on us to end white supremacy because we don't run the system. They determine everything that we do a lot of time, and we have to respond to it so they can end it. I tell so-called, I don't even like to use the term white ally because it sounds like you're not really a part of the. What white people can do is go into their own communities. I don't need to talk to a white person. Go into your own communities and start teaching people about white supremacy. Go to those school board meetings that we're seeing being disrupted and tell them that critical race theory ain't what you calling it right now. Deal with white supremacy. You don't have to ally with us right now and say, well, we want to help you to deal with racism. Deal with it within your own community. And most white people are not willing to do that. You know, I have a fantasy that one day we'll have a group called Whites Against Racism, or WAR for short. You know, I don't think that's ever going to happen. I just don't think it's ever going to happen. This is a team sport that all whites participate at some level, even with tacit agreement to how he was handled. I've already seen white people say, well, I'm glad he wasn't shot because we'll know why he did it. I already know why he did it. He already wrote why he did it. I wonder would they say that if this was a black person killing a bunch of white people in a white community. I doubt it. I'm glad he wasn't shot. So,
Jules, what do you think that, you know, I mean, you're younger than me, but one of the things that I often hear about those coming up behind me is that we're in a post-racial society. Is that true? How true is that, as far as you know, from your friends and colleagues?
I was about to bring it up, and I wasn't even going to bring it up from a friends and colleagues' point of view. Like literally, when Doc was speaking, I started thinking back to, and I want to say as recently as I want to say the last 2 years, a lot of African American entertainers, and I don't want to to put this in context. I'm not calling them stupid. I'm just saying it bothers me when they say I don't see racism or I didn't experience racism in this country. That bothers me so much because you think that you have so much money and influence that doesn't affect you, but it affects you people. Like you're on a different pedestal, and and it's been a couple. And I'm not going to go through all the names because I mean, again, we are.
Oh, I already know who they are. Lil Wayne.
Yeah, social media spins it. Social media spins it. It keeps on spinning it. So you see it often, but it's like they're literally coming out saying, I don't see racism. Racism doesn't affect us. And it's like you're putting that idea out there to your fans, so your fans probably say, oh yeah, I don't see racism either. But the people who are living in a society who are watching this Gendron who's watching Dylan Roof, what am I supposed to think? That there's no such thing as racism? I'm seeing it too often.
Come on, brother.
I'm still seeing it currently. I mean, again, we discussed this a couple shows ago. I have dreads. I have tattoos. Certain places I go, I still get profiled. It doesn't change. We're in 2022. It doesn't change.
That's right.
And Doc, when we put ourselves and you know, I've been reading books and especially in the space of psychology, and one of the big things that I'm reading is about this idea of seeing the world as it is. And as you started your remarks today, that we need to accept the fact that this is America. Like, this is not outside of us. This is us. And I'm wondering, when we as Black people, we're the victims of it. But when we deny our own humanity and we deny our own injustice and say, well, I don't see race. And I'm saying as Black people, what really is happening here? Is there seems like there's a huge disconnect. And what is the impact of that disconnect as we are adults, and especially if we put that into our children?
Well, I think, like brother just said, that I think when somebody says that, and I'm glad you mentioned Lil Wayne, because that's who came to my mind as well. When artists say, I don't see racism, I think they're lying. I'm going to just say it straight out. I think they're lying. I think what they're doing is just like, I'm sorry, Brother Brown, the mayor of Buffalo, when he said, this is not who we are. I think he knows that's not true. I think that we want to lie. It's almost like we say these things because we say, well, if I say this, white people will like me better. They'll like Black people better. They'll think I'm one of them. We want to join the team that is hurting us. And I mean, we see these manifestations with Clarence Thomas. We see it on the plantation with the Black overseer and others. These people are not new in our history. And I think in every case, they are lying. I just don't believe, as somebody said, I've never experienced racism. I don't know. I think they're in a state of denial bordering on psychosis. I do.
And that is the place that I think that we need to really kind of push for, is to get to see people to see reality. Like, yeah. Right, I don't walk around with the lens of wanting to see racism.
Right.
But then if it happens, you got to call it like it is.
Exactly.
You got to call it, because I feel like you're doing a disservice to your own intelligence. One of our watchers, Taylor said, it's mind-bending manipulation. And that's the last thing we need, is some mind-bending, matrix-style distortion of a very real reality.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Jules.
I got a question, because and this is where we're going back to talking about that subject. I just literally thought about this. So if you're putting out there that you don't see racism and there's no racism, so when your tour bus gets mysteriously pulled over with suspicion, not like you're doing nothing wrong, but we saw you getting your tour bus leaving the show, we let you drive a mile down the street and we pull your bus over, is that because you actually have something, or is it because you're Black?
It's like James Baldwin says, by being Black in America, by virtue of being Black in America, you're going to be paranoid. You know, I wonder sometimes if I have been treated in a racist manner. And the reason why I wonder that is because it's happened before. And so, like Baldwin said, I think it's healthy paranoia to wonder whether or not you're being pulled over because you're Black, that you're being, profiled because you are Black.
I like that.
It's just healthy. It's a survival technique.
Absolutely. Doc, and you've been sharing a lot of your time, so I'm so grateful for this. But I want to get one more thoughts on this before we take our next pause, which is around this idea of forgiveness. I was watching, like I said, I know, Doc, I knew this was going to touch a nerve for both you and Jules. I knew it. I had to I got to bring it up, because I'm telling you, when I saw the family of Ruth Whitfield, I was hoping and praying. I'm watching the live stream of the press conference, and I was hoping and praying, and I know some of you all were probably thinking the same thing. Please don't mention the F word. And I ain't talking about the expletive. I'm talking about, don't mention forgiveness. Please don't mention we forgiveness. Oh, no. We saw that. And we're so quick to jump into that space, Doc. And I'm saying, at this point, what is a healthy, you said healthy paranoia when we stop our police. What's a healthy place for us to, do we not forgive? Because at this point, it's hard for me to forgive this dude. I can't forgive him. I won't forgive him.
You shouldn't. You should forgive people who want forgiveness and deserve forgiveness. I'm writing a paper right now because this thing started with me, at least, with the Charleston church massacre back in 2015. The name of the paper is Pathological Forgiveness. I think you can be pathologically forgiving people. Dylan Roof, when he killed the people in the church, he said that he didn't want to be, forgiven. That he was laughing at some of the people that were, say, I forgive you, I forgive you. You forgive people. And then I'm telling you, Farajii, part of this stuff comes from the over-religiosity of our people. And I know that steps on some toes when you say that. It's this turn the other cheek syndrome. I didn't say that you shouldn't turn the other cheek sometimes, but it's a syndrome among us that somehow, if we don't forgive, somehow something bad is going to happen to us. And that won't happen. This guy doesn't deserve to be forgiven.
Come on, say that, Doc.
He doesn't deserve. And when we do forgive him, we are reinforcing doing it again. Yes. Because if I see a white boy shoot 10 black people, with 13, but killing 10 of those people being black, I see him kill. And we said, well, we forgive you. We forgive you. I said, wow, that we killed them and they still forgive us. Kill some more then. We can't keep doing that. We can't keep doing it.
I love it. I love it. Dr. Winbush, you my brother, and I always love having you on. And the great work that you're doing in the areas of reparation and race relations and just keeping us thinking. I really, really appreciate your time today, Doc. I thank you so much for being a part of this conversation.
You and Jules keep up the good work, both of them.
Yes, sir. Definitely will. Well, definitely will. Dr. Ray Winbush, who is an author, he's a scholar, professor, and he's the director for the Institute for Urban Research at Morgan State University. Doc, thank you so much. I look forward to having you back for another conversation.
See you now.
Folks, when we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's get to some of your comments. Jules, we got a lot of people that are checking in today to talk about what has happened in Buffalo. We're going to get to those comments in the next hour. Plus, we got some other conversations to have. So let's continue to keep the discussion going. Stay with us. A lot to get to in the second hour of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been having a conversation about the mass shooting in Buffalo from this past week, and such a big story, not just in terms of news, but in terms of where we are in this country. We had a dynamic first hour with Dr. Ray Winbush, who is a scholar and author, professor, director of the Institute for Urban Research at Morgan State University, and culture crew member, hip hop artist, and activist Jules P., who's still with us this hour. But so much to unpack, Jules. Let's bring Jules back into the discussion. Jules, so much to unpack, brother, that I think we touched on a good number of big topics, but people are sharing their thoughts in our various chat platforms on both YouTube, Facebook, and folks, keep your comments going. And I thought that it might just be appropriate that we acknowledge just some of the things that people are saying around this issue, because this situation right here is so big, and it hits me on a different level. It's hard to just be upset.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this post by Sean King. Sean King, who is a social media influencer, activist, advocate. And I mean, he had a picture of Peyton being arrested by those two white officers. And, you know, he just broke it down into like 7 points, and he was going off. You know what I mean? Cuss words, the whole thing, right? This little mother. And I remember just sitting there, just kind of reading what Sean had to say, and thinking to myself, like, I can't be angry. I can't be in a space of anger, because this is what happened. Now, if this was from somebody, another member of society, if we would have seen, I'm going to say this, if we would have seen a young black male go up into a black supermarket, killing grandmas and babies, then I would be like, all right, we need to figure out what the hell is going on. But I'm not surprised. You know what I mean? Like I'm angry because of the great loss of life, but I'm not angry, and it's a hard place to be. And I'm sure some people, you know, you may feel the same way or not, but I'm not so angry without losing sight of the fact that in this country, we still do not have a very strong response against racism and white supremacy. I just don't see it. That's why we had to pull up that piece from the president and from, it's not no lone gunman, man. This dude came out of a community of people. And I'm not talking white people. I'm talking out of the community of white supremacists. He comes out of a community of listeners of Tucker Carlson. He comes out of the community. I mean, he is a link in a larger chain. And folks, if nothing else that you get from this situation, please don't go around promoting, propagating that he was by himself. He was by himself when he did the act. But his thoughts, his views, they come from somewhere. He didn't make these up on his own. So let's not fall into the trap of thinking, oh man, he's a lone gunman that was mentally disturbed. When the doc just clearly said, he said it himself, Peyton said, I'm not crazy. So for all the black folks that are listening, let's not get into that space of like, man, he needs mental help. Because one thing for real, Jules, do we afford that same leniency, compassion, mercy to Ray and him?
That's not when we know it's prevalent.
Now, Ray and them, they going through all types of struggles.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment Ray crosses us wrong, the heart gets hard. And this is the sickness. I'm going to get off this soapbox, but I'm just saying, bro, this is the sickness of white supremacy, where you love the ones that hate you and you hate the ones that you're supposed to love.
Keep right on this.
That's the sickness of white supremacy.
Keep your foot on, and this is what I'm going to say, because you brought up an interesting point when you said coming from a community of races. You left out one of the biggest communities. He comes from a community of hate. That's the community that you're coming from. Whether you're black, white, whatever, you're coming from the community of hate. You have hate in your heart. There's no love in your heart. That's where it starts. The fact that he was able to get arrested and walk out of the store alive. Same with Dylan Roof. The fact that he was able to get arrested and on the way to the jail, stop at Burger King and get something to eat. In a police car.
See?
Not on his own. In the police car. Like, that's what we're continuously dealing with. And we're not supposed to be outraged. And from the conversation earlier, talking about, having forgiveness. And that's the thing I hate about, our religion sometimes, because it teaches us forgiveness all the time. But how often you going to let somebody slap you in your face before you react?
And come on, man, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Somebody smacks you, Jules, for no reason. Even if they had a reason, they put their hands on you. What's the first thing you want to do? You want to naturally defend yourself.
Right.
You want to naturally defend yourself. So to that point of forgiveness, that's a fear tactic. That's a fear tactic. You don't want it to seem like you want to go too hard. But and I mean, if for many of my brothers and sisters, and I know Jules, you probably heard this too, brother. For many of our brothers and sisters say, man, we need to strap up and get ready to rock and roll. Look, make sure you understand.
Right.
And I always go back to looking at the great examples, right? Malcolm X, Dr. King, all of those that came before us, right? Whether you agree with their ideology or not, here's one thing that you cannot dispute me on. You cannot dispute me on. You cannot dispute the fact that they didn't love who they are. They didn't love and they didn't seek the humanity of all people. They didn't look for the humanity. Malcolm, Dr. King, whoever you're talking about, worked from a place of love. and they were able to give all they can. They sacrificed, they literally sacrificed the happiness and the wealth. They didn't die rich. They didn't die where their families were living good. They died poor because they gave it all. So if you're talking this big talk, are you willing? And this is the question that we all got to ask ourselves. I ask myself this every single day. How much am I willing to give for the liberation of my people? How much am I willing to give for the liberation of the American people? Because this is home.
Right.
I was born in Baltimore, baby. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you want to be a real patriot? The real patriots are those that can look at this country and say, with their chest, they can say, you're wrong.
Right. And
that's the real patriot.
In the height of the pandemic, as we all remember, the unfortunate murder caught on film of George Floyd. And you've seen how many people, black, white, brown, all joined together to come across all these protests, all these marches, all these events were being held about the wrongfulness of the situation. And it's like, to go from that to right back into this same place again. Yes, that was a police brutality, and yes, this is a mass killing, but it also has one common denominator: a black person or black people are the victims. So what are we supposed to separate the issue? Are we supposed to, have a divide and, well, that one means more than this? Why is that a fault? Like, I feel like there's a fall off. We did all that marching and protesting just to get murdered again.
Come on. Let's share some of these thoughts, Jules. And I'm not sure if you jumped in the chat or not.
Yeah, I looked
in.
I was
definitely, if you see some comments that we need to bring up, I think it's important. From our YouTube chat, it was stated by, I think this is UBU. It said that the GOP is the #1 domestic threat and problem to America. Question every voter should ask is it safe to vote for insurrectionist Republicans?
Okay.
It's not, and let me just say this, folks. I mean, let's keep it real, because I like to get to the root of things. That's how we're going to eliminate it, right? You gotta get to the root of the heart, to the root of the matter. It's not just about the GOP. Hell, there are people in the Democratic Party that think certain ways.
Right.
Shit, we got Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. You know what I'm saying? It's not about party. That's where we getting it twisted. This is not about party. This is about thinking. This is about philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
This is about an ideology. This is how you think. Everybody's going to say to us at this point, right? If they haven't already said it, everybody's going to say, "Oh man, we our thoughts and prayers and condolences are to the families of the victim." Everybody's going to say that because that's politically the right thing to do. But are they going to put their money and resources into creating a better system? That is yet to be determined. And that's where I'm at. I'm not even asking you to say nothing. So don't feel compelled to say nothing to me. The only thing I want you to say is, look, this is what we're going to do. If President Biden or anybody, but I'm going to start with the president. If the president said to Merrick Garland, the attorney general, and say, look, make sure that Peyton gets the death penalty. Make sure that there's a slam dunk case. We don't want him sitting in prison for years, gloating about what he has done to other prisoners. Make sure he gets the full brunt of the legal system. Get every book and thrown at him. And say that shit publicly. See? Say it publicly. Like we want to make sure and say it like with you know, like we always say it with your chest. Say it like from a bully pulpit, like, hey, we're going to make sure that you want to, President Biden said, Jules, we want to stem the tide of racism. You want to stem the tide of racism? Do something about it. Right. You're the president of the United States. You got the Department of Justice at your disposal. For a situation like this, there's a hate crime. Folks, I want to invite y'all to check out the website justice.gov. Just put in there hate crimes and check out the website justice.gov. We were trying to get our brother, an attorney, civil rights attorney, A. Dwight Pettit. We couldn't get him on today, but we're going to try to bring him back on. But I want to share with you, when you go to justice.gov, that's a website that breaks down to you how the hate crimes are seen. Keenan, let's put this on the screen, brother, with how the Department of Justice stands for, or how they enforce hate crimes. They said this on justice.gov: the Department of Justice enforces federal hate crimes laws that cover certain crimes committed on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, or disability. The Department of Justice began prosecuting federal hate crime cases after the enactment of the Civil Rights Act of 1968. So look at that. There's a hate crime called the Shepherd Bird Hate Bill. I mean, just look at all the current bills that are on the justice.gov and see how the federal government prosecute that. Man, the president needs to be very strong.
Right.
If it doesn't come from the president, it's got to come from the Madam Vice President. She's a black woman. If it don't come from them, it got to come from the Congressional Black Caucus. That's our representation. If it don't come from the CBC, it should come from the NAACP and the Urban League. If it don't come from them, then it got to come from the people. Y'all see the system? Like, and if it don't come from the people, it's got to come from the youth. The next generation. Somebody, y'all talking about this, the president says stem the tide of racism. Let me show you how we stem the tide. We address it head on. We get out of our own ass, move our foot out our own way, and recognize and be real with one another to say we got racism and we got a race problem in America that has yet to be addressed. That's how you deal with it. All right, Jules, let's go back to some more. Let me see here. Folks, keep your comments coming in. Lana, one of our great watchers, strong supporter of us, Jules. Lana Lantham checked in and said, we are in the midst of a civil war, people. Bottom line, get ready and stay ready.
Facts. That's there.
And let me just say this, because we got to be, because emotions are running high right now.
That's where, yep.
You know, we have to use the best of intelligence in guiding our people. You get yourself ready with knowledge, wisdom, and understanding first before you go pulling up some guns.
That's exactly the point I was going to make. It's like, you know, we can't have the reactive mentality, because you go out there with your gun, we ain't gonna see you no more.
Nah, bro.
That, like, you're all the power, the intention that you had to fix the situation or to address the situation or to make the situation known, land you in a deeper hole. We can't fight two battles at one time of trying to pull up back ones that are trying to overreact when we're trying to fight the battle of still being the targets and the victims of these mass shootings. We can't fight both battles. We got to pick the battle that means the most important to us. Do the research, do the reading. Thank God for these websites, the department, and for these cases, so we're able to read what's happening or what happened to the result of these mass shootings from prior situations. And the saddest part is, like you said, since 1968, it felt like we haven't won a year.
Right.
We in 2022. 1968 felt like we're averaging about one a year at least.
Right. B Dizzle said, check this out, Jules. Says Angela Davis said famously, in a racist society, you cannot be just non-racist. You have to be anti-racist. A lot of white people are comfortable being non-racist and think they are allies. Nope. I think that that's an excellent point to bring up, because non-racist means that you can just simply deny it, that you can just kind of just sit on the sidelines. Anti-racist means that you're putting in energy and effort to combat that racist forces that are present in this country. That requires work, right? That requires you to commit yourself to something. And I think that that is part of the problem, that white people in this country, we talked about it in the first segment, but white people can't get comfortable. And let me also say this: Black people can't get comfortable.
Facts, right? Mm-hmm.
We can't get comfortable with it, because I think that we want to believe, and I know, and look. There must, and I'm sure that there are some organizations, Jules, around this country that can help us to have better conversations around race than what we have been exposed to. There are some ideologies, there are some teachings out there that can help us to have race. Let's stop putting those conversations on the fringe of the mainstream discussions. Because the unfortunate part about this, Jules, and you know it and I know it, we're talking about Buffalo today, then by the end of the week, we're talking about the NBA playoffs. You feel what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, it's going to be, all we're going to see is hashtags pray for Buffalo.
Right, right.
I remember we had a past guest on the show a few weeks ago, Dr. Tyrone Powers, who is a former FBI agent. Jules, I think you know Dr. Powers. Mm-hmm. And he made the point that in these situations where there are a lot of race issues, that the powers that be, those individuals, white people that are in power, they understand the ebbs and flow of how we respond and react to certain things. So right now we're in the portion of our rhythm where there's great anger, there's a lot of emotional uprising and upheaval around what has happened in Buffalo. But some of those individuals are going to just sit back and say, let it keep going, because it's going to subside. It's going to die out. At some point, they will get tired. And then guess what? Things will kind of go back to normal. That's why I think that it's important that we don't use certain language. And this is why language is so important. We always say stuff like racial reckoning. Oh, the racial reckoning of 2020. There wasn't a reckoning unless there was a legitimate, substantive change. There's no reckoning in the awareness. We know that there's a race problem in this country, but unless there is a real change in systems and institutions, and most importantly, in the thinking of the people, there is no reckoning. There's no reckoning. Where's the reckoning? Where's the disruption? Protest is one thing, but I'm talking about a very real disruption.
Yes. I feel like,
I mean, let's keep, I'm gonna put it very, and Jules, you might laugh at this, brother. Have you stopped telling Black children that there's a white Santa coming down their roof?
Right. That's all we see.
Have you told your children that you're the one that buys them the gifts?
Yeah.
The reckoning comes when truth is present. Where's the truth about this situation? We can't even have conversations. Like, there are still problems. Like Liz Cheney said it over the weekend, that the Republican Party has enabled white supremacists. She trending all over the country.
Right.
Because you can't even say white supremacist. Like a white person calling another white person a white supremacist. That's so ground shaking and I mean, that's just the name. I ain't even talking about the actions yet.
I was about to say that doesn't even cover the action of what was actually done. That's again. But it's the world. You know I hate it, Farajii. And hate is a very strong word. It's a very strong word. But social media has really given a different power, because now everybody is focused on the headlining word instead of addressing the issue. They want to be the clickbait topic, so they have to be saying the most far left, statement, phrase to get you to join them instead of speaking the actual truth. That's the social media world we live in. Look at your newscasting. It's all about headline driven. Me and my lady were talking actually earlier today, and it's a headline from an article. Mike Brown, 18-year-old man. This guy, 18-year-old teenager. What's the difference?
Right.
I'm confused. 18-year-old man for a black man, 18-year-old teenager for a white boy. What's the difference? I'm confused at how, but that's again headline. We're headline driven. We're bias driven. We're opinion driven. If I say this, you have to agree to this. You have to follow this. That's the problem.
Yep. That's a great point. That's why we got to go back to, and that's part of I would say for all of the activists and advocates out there that are saying, well, what can we do? What do we do? Let's force the conversation by changing the language. He's not a lone government. He's not a little boy, because he did grown man shit.
Right.
When you killing people, you're a grown man now.
Right.
You want to go out and kill people? You're a grown man now. Mountains of the Moon said white people are being replaced by brown people. Bad way to put it, but true. We got to let these dudes talk before they go postal. White people are being replaced by brown people. This has already been determined for years. Dr. Winbush talked about it. There has been a number of articles about the great browning of America. Tucker Carlson talked about it, matter of fact.
Right.
They see, and this is not some racism and all of this. This is just to go to show about the great fear that is present in white America, that they see that their country is changing. The demographics of the country is changing. This is where the replacement theory comes from. Like the great fear that they're quote unquote losing their country because America was founded by Europeans. It was, even though you had Native Americans here, you had darker skinned people here. But the fact is, this system of things was not supposed to be there. And we can go back and forth into the history of all of that, but I'm speaking of present day because I like to stay present day and keep it relevant. But there's a great fear. There's a great fear that a power is going to be taken to that point. Karina said, so many in the morning commenting on Liz Cheney's tweet like she is some martyr. She is culpable in this behavior, and her voting record demonstrates just that. Yeah. Yep. Karina, I'm with you right there. I mean, I don't think just because she speaks out about an extreme case of racism is that's going to enough to erase her past sins, right? Of walking lockstep. One of our watchers said that, of her walking lockstep with the Republican Party. No, that's not enough. Mitt Romney, same way. Y'all got to pay for that. The country got to pay for that. Gordy LaChance said, be armed, be trained, and protect yourself. That's interesting. Jules, I do know that there are a number of black people, and I think there are black gun owners, the groups of gun owners that are, saying like if they can have guns, so can we, basically. But we're going to get the license. We're going to get trained. What's your take on it?
It's funny. One of my the guys that I can say look up to, but listen to a lot, is Killer Mike. And everybody knows Killer Mike, rapper turned superb activist. I mean, the way he's involved in taking, running through Atlanta and just all he's doing. But he was talking about him and his wife, about the guns they own and why they own them and for the protection. And I think that's a touchy subject for people to decide, because it's like, you have people that have been against guns their whole life. So say, all right, well, I'm against guns, so I'm not going to own one.
Yeah.
Then you also have a side where, they have access to, well, what other tense? Like I was going to bring this point up to you about retaliation. It's like, so when an act like that happens as a gun owner, I don't want to think retaliation. I just want to think protection. I want to have the proper training for situations like that. Again, the man was able to walk the boy, because he's an 18-year-old teenager. I want to call him a man because that's just for black people only. But he was able to walk out the store alive after a mass murder.
Mm-hmm.
Where in retaliation, you think from the outside looking in, like nobody was strapped up to shoot back. No, because we're in a grocery store shopping, buying groceries. We ain't thinking about that.
Right. Right.
I'm not in a war zone. I'm in a grocery store buying products for my house to have dinner this weekend, because it happened over the weekend. So I'm in here shopping for the weekend to make sure I have food in my household. I'm not thinking I'm about to go to war buying Cheerios.
That's the craziness, brother. I'm glad you brought that up, Jules, because I seen a couple of people say that. I'm like, so you strap up to go to the grocery store?
Like, it's not my mentality.
Like, you never know.
Right.
At the grocery store? I mean, I get it, but like, damn, bro. I'm serious. Like, I'm going back to, what do you tell your grandmother or tell your mom? Dr. Winbush had sent me this, the story of another sister that was killed. I'm trying to pull this up, but it was sad. This is the sister of the 32-year-old. Her name was Rebecca Drury. She was known for her out, and this was something that Sean King posted on his social. He said, known for her outgoing personality and big heart. She wasn't even from Buffalo, but was in town from Syracuse to care for her brother, who had just had a bone marrow transplant. She had literally just gone to the store to get food to make a special dinner for the family. 32 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Black woman. Killed. Nobody's thinking about strapping up, getting food and dinner for the family.
Right, right.
And I mean, if you think you're going to strap up like that, see, the other part about this too, though, and this is why I think we need to have continue to have these conversations. I'm not living my life in fear.
Right, exactly. That's the point.
I'm thinking that every corner is lurking. I can't do that, man. It's too much energy to think about that, man. I believe in a real God. I believe that if you put out good works, that you'll be protected. And even if my life is taken for whatever reason, I hope and pray that I'm looked upon by the Creator and by the family as being one who strived to do the right thing. You know what I mean? But I'm not living my life in fear. I'm not teaching my children to live their life in fear. Like, oh man, every time you go outside, get tense. Like, there has to be a balance somewhere, because that's not a healthy place to be. That's not a healthy place to be. I understand it that some people might say, hey man, you gotta, but I'm not living in fear.
Right.
I'm not living in fear. Let's keep on going. Janae says, see, they let Kyle go free, and now his homeboys want to do the same thing. Kyle Rittenhouse. Yeah. DeAndre said, facts, 18-year-old black man, but 18-year-old white teen. The narrative speaks volumes, and that's just one of many subliminals. You're absolutely right. Great point Jules made. Born King said, never said kill anyone. I said we need to defend and protect our families and community by any means necessary, not books and study group. Well, let me just tell you why it's important for us to have books and study groups first, Born King. If you don't know the value of yourself and your family, if you don't have a divine view of yourself and your family, you're not going to protect them. If you don't have a healthy love for yourself and your family, and that's through knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, then you're not going to go all out to protect them by any means necessary. Jules, have you ever seen family at odds with one another? Have you ever seen two brothers who want to kill one another? Same lineage, but they want to kill each other.
Right.
over some street stuff, over this, over that. So you got to be the book saying we can't negate. Please, let's not negate the knowledge and the wisdom, because that helps us to find the compassion to deal with, to be able to go to our people. And even when our people are acting other than themselves, we still got the compassion to see the humanity in them.
Right.
To see the love. To be like, you know what, brother, I know you don't appreciate me, man. Get out of that face, man. You N-word, boom, boom, boom. I get you, brother. But you know what? I hope and pray that you have a blessed day. Just know that a black man loves you.
Hey, Farajii.
Even in your madness. I'm not going to go and I'm going to use Michelle Obama. When they go low, I'm going to go high, brother, because guess what? You just in you in a different state of mind right now. I was once there and I understand it, but I'm reformed now. I'm different now. I'm redeemed now.
Right.
So, brother, I just wanted to show you some love and walk away. Look, you know how you can always get a black man to open up, Jules? You know how you and I, we talked about this all the time. Smile. You and I smile all the time.
All the time.
It's hard to, man, I've gone to the hardest black man. All right, brother, appreciate you. Hit him with the pearly whites. He ain't calling me the N-word no more.
Right.
All right, bro. I appreciate you too, brother.
That's all it takes.
You know what I'm saying? But we can't, the knowledge and the wisdom leads the way. And that helps to create, then generate the love we need in the community. Man, we just having family talk, man. This is so real.
I love
it. Belinda said, Farajii, let one of us try to order an assault rifle to your neighborhood. ATF will be all over that ass. Wonder what's the difference.
I saw that comment.
I mean, look, the crazy part about this is that we know the double standards.
Right.
We know the double standards. So why are we surprised when stuff like this really happens?
When I saw the comment, Farajii, all I could think about is like going on like an Amazon Dropbox and just pulling out my AK and just walking back to my house. I said, when I saw the comment, I said, all I can think about is just, me ordering my gun like Amazon Dropbox, right. with my AK, and just walk in the house like nothing wrong, like nobody like nobody say nothing.
Right, nobody's saying nothing. You just got a big gun. Just, hey, bro, I'll sign for that. Thank you. Thank you.
Dog, it's the double standard. Crazy. I swear.
Hey, look.
Crazy.
Chalk milk. I mean, people really look. I know y'all really going back and forth with me on this knowledge and wisdom stuff. Y'all act like I'm talking from the side of my neck when I tell y'all that, bro. Please, this stuff actually works. But Chalk Milk 10 said knowledge and wisdom won't help you when you stand at the barrel of an AK. Who said it won't help you?
So having a gun will help you if you're already looking at the barrel.
Hey, look, let me tell you something. Who said no? I'm being dead ass serious right now. Who said that won't help you? They have been, look, man. You got to learn how to connect with your people. You got to learn that and how to tap into the best part of your people. And that's a skill, Jules, that every black man and every black woman don't always have. I have been blessed by the grace of the God, man. I have been blessed by the grace of the God to never be in a situation where I could not talk to my people to appeal to their greater sense of humanity. We got to appeal to each other in a much better sense. And this is, now I'm talking about to each other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Even in the midst of opposition, whether it's from the police or something like that, when like sometimes you just got to know, the knowledge and the wisdom, please, let's not, and this is, I can't say this enough. Let's not act as if the knowledge and the wisdom makes you weak. I've been taught to not even use a gun all my life.
Right.
That doesn't mean that I shouldn't know how to shoot one, but to not put my faith in that. Mm-hmm. You put your faith in the knowledge and the wisdom. And then, of course, to the creator. to the God, but you don't start the conversation off like that. Again, it's having the skills to use the knowledge and the wisdom. Danny Russell said, white America are the original race replacers and try to erase, miseducate, and replace Native Americans for centuries. And always remember, it is the myth of white supremacy. Amen, Danny. Amen. Amen. Danny also said, and we pale-faced people are not superior. We are just like everyone else, all a part of the human race. It is up to us white folks to change for the better. I like Danny.
Ability, I like it.
I like Danny. I think I agree with you. Shalinda said, facts to Danny, said the history of blacks being here before Christopher Columbus has been erased, just like in Europe. We were there first too. Yep. Janae said, I know that seems funny, but ghost guns get delivered by Amazon, Walmart in the mail. It happens.
Yeah.
I go to like a secret black Amazon site or something?
I was just joking about, because I was saying because of me, you know, if I look at me, the double standard of me carrying it. But yeah, you go to Walmart, get guns and bullets. And you can get a shipment delivered. I'm just saying the fact of looking at me walking outside, getting that from my Amazon Dropbox, the double standard as if somebody else were to get it. But it actually does happen 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Zamara, the Slayer, Jules, there is a reason why you've been taught that. And I'm assuming she's been talking about what we say about wisdom. They don't want you to protect your community. Be wise and be knowledgeable about your rights as a citizen. So I'm trying to figure out, Zamara, what are you speaking of? You talking about my view of knowledge and wisdom, or you talking about having guns? I would love to hear what you got to say about that. MZ said, who do you think posed the greatest threat to your safety? Sometimes it's yourself. I see that. I understand that. I know that, but I can't hold on to that. Y'all, you catch what I said, MZ? I see that. I understand that. I know that, but I can't hold on to that. I can't go around holding on that the next black man that I see is my greatest enemy. That's an absolute damn lie. That is a lie. Not my greatest enemy. He might be an enemy, but he ain't my greatest enemy. My greatest enemy is the systems and the institutions and the thinking of white supremacy. That's the greatest enemy to me. It ain't the little black man that's walking around here trying to figure out he in the same struggle that I am in, and that he's my enemy. He's the impediment for me to gain success in this country. Let's see here. I see so many people that are checking in. Oh, Zamara said, no, I'm referring to you being taught not to have guns. Well, we can respectfully disagree. We can agree to disagree, Zamara. Yeah, I'm not teaching my children. I'm teaching my children how to have faith in their creator and their God. And I'm teaching my children to rely on knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. I've been taught that. Of course, you know, I'm from the Nation of Islam. We don't carry guns. So, and I think we've been around for a very long time, for well over 80 years. And we don't have those type of problems. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm just going to be honest. We don't have those type of problems. Black men aren't rolling up on the FOI or any brother from the mosque and just saying, oh, we're going to just shoot you down. That's not happening. Matter of fact, there's a number of black men in Baltimore and across the country. Here in Baltimore, they have a group called the We Are Us movement. And the We Are Us movement, they go into some of the worst places in the city of Baltimore with no guns in hand, just with unity, with smiles on their faces and love in their hearts. And they offer jobs, resources to clean men and women up, and they offer a hope to black people. You offer hope to black people, they're no longer going to be your enemy. The hope is in your example. The hope is in the resources that you provide, but they're no longer your enemy. So no, I don't prescribe to that. I don't think I was wrong. I've seen us go to the worst and to the hardest of men and women and break through all of that. Jules been around to see that. So we got a lot of people that have been, and folks, keep your comments coming. Keep your comment. Troy said we still got big guns. I mean, if you got hand-to-hand combat, Troy, I hear you, sir. Troy Healed. Yes, we still have big guns. You're right. You're right. And Portia said information is our best weapon. Strategy is also. That's where we need to put the emphasis on, Jules. That's the best way. How do we make sure that we have the strategies? What are the strategies? And my hope is that as a result of what we saw in Buffalo, that we have some very, very deeper conversations with one another and with the organizations that are, you know, whether you're talking about violence prevention or you're talking about civil rights organizations. My hope is that we can have those discussions about how to address, you know, racism from a strategic point of view.
Right.
Strategy is everything. Willie Banks said, I'm still going to use my gun and pray to God later. Okay. Y'all know where I stand. Look, man, look, I just told y'all where I stand on it. You may agree or disagree, and that's fine. But just be ready for the consequences.
That's what I'm saying. That's I don't tell nobody how to live, how to act. Hey, do you be safe, be reasonable?
I got to be ready for my consequences, right?
Just think about your consequences.
But y'all be ready for your consequences.
That's it. I'm
just know that. And I'm not saying that to be, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm not trying to have a, you know what I mean, I'm just saying, once you bring guns into the situation, just be ready for the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I've been blessed to be able to take care of my family and my son and my daughter and my wife. But once you start bringing guns into the discussion, be prepared for those consequences. B. Diz will say strategy is key. There's a way to make things better, but we all have to understand this white fear is going to be a deadly fight. Do you what you do? It makes me think about Roland's book, you know, Jules, Big Brother Roland got a book coming out called White Fear. And B. Dizzle and to everybody, continue to pull your thoughts on and sharing your thoughts on. I appreciate it. We're trying to get everything. But it comes to that point of white fear. They're Roland, and I can't wait for the book to drop because that's exactly where we are. There's this fear that's present right now in this country, and we gotta figure out how to. And I'm saying we have to figure out how to respond to it. White America has to figure out how to eliminate it. Y'all didn't catch that.
Say it for the people in the back.
We gotta figure out how to respond to it. White America has to figure out how to eliminate it. And where does fear come from? Right? Not understanding. Fear comes from not knowing. It's perceived, right? Some of it's perceived and some of it is real, but you gotta get to the root of it. Mike V, my man Mike, always checking in. Of course, they aren't running up on black men. They are choosing soft targets like grocery stores and churches and HBCUs because they're weakly protected. I'd be interested in hearing how DHL, so the Department of Homeland Security, handles this. Yeah. There may be a conversation, and Jules, you know, you went to an HBCU.
Yeah.
Do we need to have a conversation about, you know, HBCUs, churches having better security, a better security system? I ain't talking about ADT either. I'm talking about people on campus. Outside of campus police. In the churches, we hardly have any real security.
No.
That's how Dylan Roof was able to get through.
The pastor usually has his guys, but that's pretty much it.
You know, supermarkets, they have an armed security guard. Pretty much in a lot of supermarkets, hell, they got an armed security guard at the dollar store. You know what I mean? Like,
but in certain cases now, I mean, and it's just not even just, I don't want to just throw it at Baltimore, but like a lot of places have actual hired police that are working overtime I know when I was at Sam's for all those years, on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, we had an actual officer there. We didn't have security. We had an actual police officer. They work 2 shifts. The one works the morning shift, the other one comes for the evening shift. And that's all overtime for them. Like they're literally Baltimore County Police were getting overtime to work as security for us. So like it wasn't just like no ranky dink top flight security of the world. Like we had real live officers trained to go, TCG as we say, if something was to pop off. So it's like, we had the real uniforms there. We didn't just have like no regular security. We had actual real uniform. And again, it's not nothing to be proud of. It's like, sad that you have to deal with. And they weren't there just for a Dylan Roof or a grinning guy. They were there just because, monitoring, make sure nobody in the store stealing. You know what I'm saying? They just there for regular whatever, and they have the access to have units come ASAP to arrest somebody stealing. The thought of somebody actually coming there doing a mass murder is, again, like I said, I'm not going there to the grocery store thinking I'm about to be in a mass murder. It can happen anywhere. I get it. You got to be conscious of that. But it's not my mentality, I got to strap up just to go to goddamn Sam's and shop.
Right. So that just speaks to, I think that like to this point, and it might just be a situation where I don't know how realistic it is to expect, spaces, public spaces like security, like a shopping, like a supermarket, or maybe a park or a retail store. Like, I don't know how realistic it is to expect the security to be beefed up. I don't know if that's even plausible, possible, considering that you just don't normally hear about this. As much as this is a tragedy, this is kind of like an anomaly as well, because you just don't hear about mass shootings at supermarkets. And so I think that, in houses of worship, I truly believe whether it's a church, mosque, or synagogue, you should have a security element to your houses of worship, because unfortunately, people they are hateful of religion in this day and time, organized religion. So I believe that those houses, those faith institutions should be secured. I truly believe that. That's just the day and time we live in it. But it's hard for us to have that for the supermarket outside of what's already there. You just don't have that, It's very, very hard. Percy Miracle said you are responsible for your own security. Yeah.
That's
the hard part about this whole thing. We are responsible, but what we're seeing right now, and we did have other stories to talk about, but I just I'm so happy that we're having this conversation. And over the next couple of days, folks, I really hope and pray, and I know Jules, for us to have some very different discussions about this. I don't want this just to stay in a space of us just being mad. Then we talking about strapping up without us having a conversation about policy, without us having a conversation about the mentality, without us having a conversation about, the importance of us being a community, being in love with one another to protect and serve and save each other. Like, all of those things cannot be outside of what has happened in Buffalo.
All right.
They can't be outside of those things. And unfortunately, we're seeing more and more mass shootings. There was a shooting in Orange County, California. At a church. They say that it was a man in his 60s, an Asian man. If I'm not mistaken, and Shannon, please correct me if I'm wrong on this, an Asian man in his 60s is committed that horrendous act. I think one person was killed and others were injured. There were about 30 to 40 people in the church, but I think 6 were shot where one person was killed.
Yeah.
And I mean, even in a situation like that, if people say, well, why should we be concerned? It's a human being.
That's there we go.
It's human life. Nobody, why would, come on, let's not be so cold to the pain of other human beings.
I got a question for Farajii.
Go ahead, bro.
For the ones that saying, why should we be concerned? So is it more, are we to pay more attention to international terrorists or domestic terrorists? Which ones mean the most, which ones affect us the most?
We got to look at, look, we can't stop what's happening across the water.
Right.
I'm looking at these domestic terrorist situations.
That's what I'm saying. It's again, human life. I don't care what your race or religion is.
Nobody should go to the church and feel like they're going to die.
I'm like, I'm in a place of worship.
I mean, who does that?
In the same weekend as this mass shooting.
Happened.
Like 48 hours later.
Literally on two coasts of the country.
Yeah, two coasts, exactly. From Buffalo, New York to California, like literally in the same weekend.
So there's a real problem in America where people are so imbalanced. And Shannon, thank you so much. The shooter was Chinese, Jules. Chinese people shooting up the place now?
No. So that victim was Taiwanese.
Now here's the thing. Look at this. In that case, what stopped them from this Chinese gunman from taking out more lives is that he was detained by some of the church members. They put themselves in harm's way and they hogtied this man until the police came.
And see, that's where the fear part, because it's like reaction. What do you can't ever say something on the outside looking in. Because what are you thinking in that moment? So you're saying a mass murder coming to Buffalo and he's coming in with a ghost gun and shooting 10, 11, 12, 13 people. It's like they're running out of fear. And then you're in a place of worship and it's like, all right, let's think to detain him. It's like, you got to react in a moment. That's why I never, like when it comes to victim, it's no such thing as victim blaming. You can't say what you would have done. You have to be in that situation. You can't say it from the outside looking at what they should have did or how you should feel. You have to be in the situation. My reaction is always to stop what's going on, but to again use my brain and be smart about it because I don't want to be right in the line of fire trying to go directly at somebody.
Right. So the issue here was that according to the sheriff in Orange County, Sheriff Don Barnes, he said that the motives of the shooting was there was a grievance between the shooter, identified as a Chinese immigrant, and the Taiwanese community. You see that level of hatred?
I was about to say issues bigger than what we can even identify because we still been a victim.
And I'm bringing this up because we are living in a time of great imbalance of the human mind.
Mm-hmm.
See, we don't want to think about it like that. We don't want to think about this thinking. And as we close out today's show, we don't want to think about the level of imbalance that is in the minds of people today. When you don't have freedom, justice, and equality present, when truth isn't present, when lies are constantly being told, when you don't have a strong sense of yourself, all of these things can create an imbalanced mind to the point where you want to go up in a church, in a supermarket, and shoot and kill people indiscriminately. That's a problem. This is America right now. This is America. And if y'all think that you're going, again, I'm not going to work from a place of fear. Just understand how serious we are, the great struggle of human beings are right now in this country.
Hey, Farajii, if I know it's been a couple of years, but if you haven't watched it, Childish Gambino did a music video called "This Is America" a couple of years ago. Hey,
I remember that.
Go watch it. This is America. This is America.
And look, unfortunately, the one man that was killed, Dr. John Chang, survived by a wife and 2 children. He charged at the shooter and attempted to disarm him, allowing others to intervene. So he kicked it off He was shot and killed, but then the others right behind him was able to detain the shooter. He gave his life to save somebody else's life. And that's why you say, Jules, if you're in a situation like that, how many of us would have charged, would have sacrificed our life for somebody else? Here's a doctor with a wife and a family. My heart and prayers go out to them, man. Go out to his family. Dr. Chang. I'm not on some old, he's Asian. Therefore, no. My heart and prayers go out to his family, man.
Right.
But let's not get into this. But just know there's a great imbalance in people. Just like there's an unraveling in America, there's an imbalance in America right now. And people got to know that. Look, we running over time. But hey, Jules, I'm thanking all of it, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. I truly appreciate all of y'all for posting your thoughts and having a conversation. I hope that you found this part of the discussion. We didn't, the Spirit just took us in a space where we just wanted to talk to you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so many of us are in a space where we're trying to figure out how to process and how to deal with all of this stuff. And so just know that here at Black Star Network, we hear you. Here at the culture, we understand you. And I'm going to continue to use this platform to try to get to the truth and continue to have conversations about justice. But I'm also going to use this platform my hope and prayer is to really cultivate the humanity. To cultivate the humanity of us so that way we can understand what's needed in this country right now. We're in a very, very serious time in this country. And for me, it's important that we start to see each other humanity. I want the death penalty for Peyton. Let's not don't get that twisted. I want him to suffer. But I don't want us to continue to suffer from the same garbage that he suffered from, that he promoted, right?
Right.
Nah, man. Nah. Jules, hip-hop artist, activist, thank you so much, brother, for being a part of this great conversation today. I appreciate you. Thank you for being so good for the culture, Jules.
Man, I really do appreciate it, because this gives me another avenue not only to talk and give my views and opinions, but I get to learn so much. And then the conversations that I have in my personal groups outside of it, it's just like the information is being passed back and forth, and the knowledge. And I like when that the comment that we read earlier, I was thinking, I don't want to be cliche, but it's always having a gun doesn't give you power, having knowledge does. So just always use that mentality to learn, teach, educate the next generation, and we'll be straight.
Yeah, absolutely. Jules P., Culture Crew member. Thank you, Jules. Appreciate you, brother. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, sure, for sure.
All right, folks. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you again for sharing your comments. Again, we wanted to sometimes you just got to have these fireside chats. Maybe Shannon and we might just need to have these fireside chats a little bit every so often. But, I found that in those big conversations, when these big situations happen, we just need to talk and process these things together. And, in a few moments, in a little bit at the 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time hour, my big brother, Roland Martin, is going to continue the conversation, continue the coverage. I'm hearing that he got some very special guests on the show tonight surrounding this Buffalo mass shooting. So I highly, highly encourage you to tune in for that. Can tune in. I see many of you checking in for Dr. Carr, the Black Table. I mean, we all have been affected by this here Black Star Network. So that's why it's important for your support. So that way, that without a shadow of doubt, folks, Black Star Network is here for you. Black-owned, unfiltered, unadulterated Black media just for you. Make sure you go to our website at blackstarnetwork.com, where you can make your donation. You can show your support. Even if you can't give anything today, that you can certainly share all of our videos, let people know, download the app for free, all of those great things. Just go onto our website at blackstarnetwork.com. I want to thank my phenomenal team today, Joel, Shannon, Keenan, for making today's broadcast so special. But even more so than them, I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. We're hitting record numbers in the chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. For all of our new online culture crew members, welcome to the show. We hope that you enjoyed what you heard today. And even if you disagreed, we hope that you come back. Come on back. Maybe you find something that you agree with. If you don't like some of the views, that's fine. But trust and believe your view is appreciated just as much as anybody that agrees with us. So we want to create a stronger community that's built on beyond just the likes and dislikes. But we want to have a strong community and a safe space where we can share our thoughts, discuss them, and most importantly, be empowered by them. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong, stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. And our thoughts, our prayers, and our condolences go out to the families of the victims in Buffalo, New York. Talk to you soon. Peace.